10 years ago, Dr. Darrell Ray had a germ of an idea. He recognized that there was a need for people to have a place and time to unpack some of the baggage that accompanies religion in a nutshell. This germ of an idea now 10 years later has evolved into an organization. Our main driver is how can we help so many of us. Number one, Recovering from Religion is an entirely volunteer organization. Darrell, me, the newest trained volunteer, because most of us have experienced what it is we're trying to help people with. And we all think, what would this have meant to us? So often when people reach out to Recovering from Religion on the helpline, the telephone call, they're at a crisis. They're at a crisis point, and those of us who have separated from religion understand what that moment is. And just to have a listening ear on the other end of the line so they can spill it out, and all of the emotions, sometimes for some of us, that transition is seismic. Everything is going to change, and they're on the beginning edge of what to them, if we remember, feels like a cliff. It doesn't feel like now what we feel, that it's walking into light and to warmth and to sunshine. At the time, their life is going to end or change or be dramatic, and it's not a happy place. We have to recognize, and we at Recovering from Religion do, there is a grieving process that accompanies leaving religion. We can't be all unicorns and rainbows. We have to acknowledge there are some losses. We have loss of community, we have loss of security, of being loved by an eternal parent that loves us so much that they would die for us, or whatever the image is. The loss of that in the beginning, it is tremendous. And so we have to remember that when people call in and they're in this crisis, we don't want to rush them. We don't want to say, oh, it's going to be fine and everything's so much better on this side. We know that it's most of the time better on this side. There's more light and air and space on this side. But we don't need to rush them through that. We have to respect the grief. We have to respect the process. Part of the training that our agents go through is that sensitivity to that one of the things that we train them to do, we are not a deconversion process. We zealously guard that reputation. Number one, that's what religion does, so we don't want to do that. We're trying to teach them critical thinking. We're trying to teach them the resources and how to find the answers. But number two, we market ourselves to the religious community. We guard the reputation of not being a deconversion process because we don't want the word to get out. Don't call those people, they'll just talk you out of your religion. There have been clients that have called in, and then we hear from them again months later. They're still kind of stuck. They're in their place. That's their process. That's their schedule. That's their journey. So we try to respect that, at the same time providing for them resources so that they can own their lives and they can own their questions and they can own their future. And so as we have clients call in and they share with us, there's nothing new under the sun. The trauma that you and I experienced and the questions we had and the relationships that were fractured, those are all going to be parts of this process. And so having a sensitivity to that, being prepared to offer resources about different things. We have a specific resource about coming out. We have a specific resource about the lingering fear of hell when they've discarded everything else, but that one little piece is keeping them awake. So that's a tiny little photograph of what Recovering from Religion Helpline does. And I mentioned fractured relationships. Actually, fractured relationships is the #1 reason that people reach out to Recovering from Religion. I think the greater secular community's trying to do that. We're trying to build communities. I'll give a plug to Oasis and Sunday Assembly. Recovering from Religion, we have support groups in place in some cities. When we have a dedicated volunteer, we have actual people with skin on meeting at a library and trying to be a resource. In addition to that, sometimes, as we all know, in the process, before someone even gets ready to be in public, to even go to an Oasis or a Sunday Assembly or one of our support group meetings, they're not even ready for that. And so we've created an online community So that's a tiny little photograph of what Recovering from Religion Helpline does. It's the most gratifying work I've ever done. And I mentioned that we're all volunteers. I continue to take calls and chats, even as the executive director, because it keeps me grounded. It reminds me of why we do what we do. It motivates me and inspires me to do even more, to be more places, because we have become such a resource for people who are struggling. If you are in a place where you're struggling with issues of doubt and non-belief, if you have this sensation, you have these nagging, annoying questions that won't go away, and you're trying to ignore them, you're trying to pray them away, you're trying to beg God to respond to you, to take away the turmoil and the doubt, my response to you, the first thing I want to say is that you're not alone. There are so many people that are in the same place. And the second thing I want to say is the reason that you're having those feelings is because you're right. Because you're right to doubt and to question and to wonder if there's not a better way. And so my hope for you, my compassion for you is be patient with yourself. Let yourself, deep breath, let yourself ask the questions. It's okay. Ask the questions. Don't rush it. Find some resources. Of course, Recovering from Religion is one I would point you to first. You will probably find that there's maybe even someone in your area that you can speak to. Maybe there's a support group in your area, a Recovering from Religion support group, where you don't have to go and tell your whole story. You don't have to go and cry. You don't have to go and make a decision about where you are. You're just in the middle of it. You're just questioning. You're just doubting. And that's so strong. That's so solid. That's so all right. And so I wish someone had said that to me. I wish someone had metaphorically embraced me and said, it's okay. It's all right. And you don't have to rush. And you don't have to decide right now. Let yourself ask the questions.